shows. You can go to places like Canton, Texas, over here. First Monday is right over here, about 2 hours. It is a big, giant flea market. You can go down to Round Top, Texas. A friend of mine is probably the largest real estate broker agent in that area of Brenham and Round Top. That is one of the biggest antique shows and sales in this part of the country. Highly recommend you go there if you're into it. If you're going to get in the antique auction business, you're probably going to have to go on buying trips. You'll get a trailer and you'll get your Suburban and or your whatever, and you'll drive to the northeast and go to Maine and Vermont and go to garage sales and antique shows and auctions and buy up as much as you can and bring it back to Texas. Because you got to remember, antiques in the United States, primarily the good stuff is all in the Northeast. That's where all the old stuff came in. It didn't come here. It was all in the Northeast. Maine, Vermont, New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. That's where the real antiques are. So you have to go there to find them. And every once in a while, somebody will die. They'll be in a estate sale, and that's how you get it. If you look at the furniture that was manufactured down here or was actually put into homes, they weren't much. And we got a lot of used stuff out of the Northeast, but not the good stuff. So, have plenty of business cards. People say, oh, nobody takes business cards anymore. Yes, they do. Especially the older people. Older people still like business cards. Well, older people are the ones with the antiques and that kind of stuff. So, don't discount the old people yet. Let your friends know you're looking for consignments for your auction house. Get to know personal property appraisers in your area. Become a personal property appraiser and get to know those people, because they'll be good sources for information. They may be able to send you merchandise. They're going to know people selling things, and maybe they'll help you. Maybe you end up adding that person to your staff, or maybe you become good friends and say, hey, I've got some cool stuff. Come down here and give me an appraisal. Tell me what this stuff is worth. A lot of times appraisers just like to be in the mix of it because it's kind of what they do. They like china, they like silver, they like antique clocks, they like painting. People that collect things like that, that go to antique auctions and stuff, they enjoy being around the environment. They just do. Thank you very much. Offer a finder's fee. Offer a finder's fee. I've had people come to me and say, Mike, I know a lady, she's getting ready to sell everything she has. She'll sell it for whatever she wants for it, but she will sell it outright. Well, if I go buy it from her and give $100,000 for it, I may give my buddy $10,000 just for the lead. Or we may sell it for her, charge her to sell it plus a buyer's premium, and we give the finder's fee to the guy that brought us the deal. We may not be able to buy it, but we may end up selling it. Also, I never pay finder's fees or commissions on my buyer's premium. I only pay it on my commission. Okay? I kind of try to leave my buyer's premium as sacred ground. Leave my premium alone. Okay?
Speaking of that, what are we using, or what is the buyer's premium used for from the last night? What is it going towards?
I don't think we even have talked about it.
Okay.
We'll come up with something. He wants to know what our special buyer's premium's for.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll have a meeting about that. All right. Let me stay on task for your benefit. Contact bank officers, personal trust departments, major banks, probate attorneys. Listen, if you're going to get in the estate business where there's antiques available, get to know all the attorneys that do the estates.
Yes, sir.
Very important that you know those guys and ladies. Take them to lunch. I have a belief that you should be taking at least one attorney and one banker to lunch every week.
That's good stuff. That's
True.
BD, baby.
It will increase the opportunity for business. And don't take the same people all the time. Just because you like the guy doesn't mean he can go buy his own damn lunch. If he wants to go eat lunch with you after the first time, let him take you to lunch. But, you know, if you have 5 banks in your community, or you have 5 in this town and 3 in the next town and 4 in the next town, you need to be cycling those bankers. And once you go through all of them, then recycle them again and do it again next year. Okay? Because sooner or later, you're gonna get a deal, I'm telling you. Lunches are cheap compared to what you can get with commission. Okay? All right. You can buy a building, you can lease a building, you can rent a facility like a VFW hall. The Denton County Fairgrounds is available on a regular basis. You can rent facilities there. What I like about getting facilities like that is they have restrooms. A lot of the times they have concession areas. They have a lot of the things you need. They have electricity, they have concrete floors, and you're not having to build it, you're not having to buy it, you just lease it for the period you need. Convention centers and hotels. And just like this room right here, I can't tell you in the 70s and 80s, mostly the 80s, how many sales I had in rooms just like this. Okay? It's easy because you got electricity, you got lights, you got hotel rooms that people want to stay, they got the tables, they got the chairs, they got the AV. All you need is the product. I can fill this room up with antiques this weekend, have a sale Saturday and Sunday, do $200,000 or $300,000, and turn the lights off and leave when it's over.
And cleanup's easy.
And the cleanup's easy. Okay? Transportation and merchandise. Do you rent a truck? You can rent a truck, buy a trailer, hire a moving company. My personal opinion is go buy you an F-250 or an F-350 pickup and 2 or 3 different kinds of trailers. You can have a box trailer. You can have a longer box trailer, so you have a 2-wheel. Single axle, get you a 2-axle, 4-wheel trailer that's got good capacity. You can do a gooseneck or a regular pull. You need a flatbed. These are the things that I have in my yard right now at my farm. I have 2 or 3 flatbeds, and I have a couple of different box trailers, and just everything you need is right there. You can go pick up merchandise left and right, or you can hire a moving company to do the work. They're insured, they're licensed, and if something goes wrong, then they have to account for it. Okay? Packing and moving boxes and paper, we talked about that. Who pays for all that? The seller does. Or you build it in. If you're going to run an auction house or a gallery, your commissions probably will start at around 35% and go up from there. I've done a lot of auctions for 50%, 60%. That's because the cost of moving, hauling, storing, insuring, and then advertising, and then selling. If you put all that together, it's going to take you between 30 and 50, 60%. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Do they like paying that kind of money?
No.
No. But you know, most of the time, people don't have an answer. And look, there's always going to be some rip-off artist that's willing to take their stuff for 10 or 15%. What's going to happen? They're going to make their money somehow. And it's probably going to be from stealing their stuff.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Consignment. You're going to need a consignment contract, just like you have an auction contract. The consignment contract, literally, guys, that little rinky-dink consignment contract we gave you for the fun auction, if you had to, that would work.
Okay.
Okay? Now you can expand it out, you can make the language more detailed, you can talk more about insurance and all that stuff, but I'm just telling you that agreement would work in a pinch for a few items. If you're going to get into a major thing, then you may want to expand it, get an attorney to look at what you're doing. What happens with unwanted items? What if people don't want it? Then you need to have in your contract the ability to throw it away. Clothing. What about clothing?
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
Well, you know what? Have an agreement in your auction consignment agreement or your auction contract that they give you the authority to take the clothing to Goodwill
Okay.
or to, one of Salvation Army and get a tax write-off and then give it to the estate. Let them have it. Let them have the tax write-off, okay? That way you're not just throwing it away. I do work with the Salvation Army, and I like them. and they're good people. Salvation Army are good people to do business with. I do their car auction, and I'm getting ready to do an art collection for the Salvation Army on artwork that was donated to the Salvation Army here in Dallas. And I take stuff to them all the time. Commission rates, we kind of talked about that. And maybe, listen, you may go in and the attorney says, hey Mike, we've got a condominium down here in Turtle Creek. It's on the 7th floor. Well, that's great. But when you go to pick that stuff up, guys, you're going to be dealing with a building. And you're going to be dealing with building management. And you're going to be dealing with a manager that's trying to protect the asset. And he's going to say, well, you're going to have padding, which they usually have. In these high rises, they have pads for the walls of the elevator. And then they may require you to put cardboard down in the elevator. And down the hallway, you may have to put runners. That's the norm. That is the norm. So, keep that in mind.
And hope they have an elevator.
Well, you better plan on that. I'm not carrying stuff downstairs.
What is a runner made out of? What material?
It can be cardboard. I mean, literally, it can be cardboard, it can be plastic, it can be some type of, there's a variety of different things you can use. I lived in a condominium until 6 months ago, and so when I moved, we had to put cardboard runners through the entire building, a city block. And my building does not allow people to move anything on the weekend. So the building I was in Addison, you were not allowed to move anything on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. It was only Monday through Friday. And you could not use dollies on the carpet unless it had runners down.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that. They're very sensitive. Probably. I'll let you know when I'm on the ground.
I'm like, whenever.
Okay. Consignor numbers, that's not really a big deal. We already talked about consignments. Obviously, you're going to have a master number as a consignor. Minimums or reserves, that's something you'll have to figure out what you're willing to live with. I am not one that likes reserves. To me, if I go pick it up and sell it, let's sell it. Now, what happens though if you go and you're talking to the attorney, thank you, you're talking to the attorney and he says, Mike, we've got a bunch of jewelry, we got some Rolexes, we have a coin collection, I mean, we got some money here. We got some really cool, expensive collectibles. And what's your answer?
Hell yeah.
I can handle it. Yeah, I can handle it. But what you're going to do is you're going to hire people who are experts in those areas. I have a friend of mine who came through this auction school in 1993. We've been friends all these years. He's a jeweler. That's what he does. He manufactures jewelry for Bakkendorfs, and they own their own processing location. They sell safes for a living here in Dallas. Good guy to know. So, but if I need somebody to look at jewelry, that's who's going to look at it for me. If I want to have paintings, then I've got somebody for paintings. It depends on what asset class we're doing, okay? I don't pretend to be an expert in all areas. I don't even pretend to be anything. I can just tell you that I can appraise some things. I'm a real estate broker. I can auction just about anything, but I always bring in the best people. And if you bring in the best people, that's all you need to do. I do not allow people to bid on their own merchandise, although I know a lot of auctioneers that do. In regard to allowing consignors to buy back their own merchandise, it's the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. Now, how am I going to put this? What will keep the seller from getting online and bidding on their own merchandise?
Well, I mean, ethics, I guess.
When did ethics ever stop them?
No,
Stop somebody.
Well, you're gonna charge them, you're gonna
They're
charge
gonna pay you.
You hear what he said? If they do break the rules, and they will, they bid on their own merchandise and buy something back, you're going to charge them. Okay? And you're going to charge the full commission. So don't feel bad about it. Never apologize for charging people for them paying you to do the work that you did. No apologies.
So you charge them the buyer's premium and,
I do. I charge them the full deal. If it's 30%, charge them 30% plus a 10 or 15% premium, depending on what we're charging. Hey, buy it all back. I've never said that. I don't want them buying it back. That doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve their problem. And the other thing is, I want 200 more people to have that merchandise. I want 200 people to have that stuff at their house, because sooner or later, they're gonna have to sell it, aren't they? I want more customers. I don't want fewer customers. Whenever I set up an auction, it's displayed like a store. Everything I ever do, I display it, I set it up like an actual store. Right down to making sure that the lamps have light bulbs and they're plugged in, the mirrors are clean and hanging on the wall, and paintings are level, and you know, I want things to look great. I want it to look like we just walked into Neiman Marcus. Okay? So we're going to lot and tag everything, we're going to take photos of everything, and we're going to photograph each item in the sale. When it comes to box lots, I'm going to take everything out of the box, put it on a table, and take a picture of the whole group so that they can see what's in the box. And you could take more pictures up close so they can see, but I mean, you're going to have like one picture, one main picture of everything in the box, and then you might have 10 pictures of all the loose stuff in the box. But make sure people see it. Advertising, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this. You're going to do the same kind of stuff for an auction gallery as you would in a state auction. Same places, auction zip, website, all that stuff. It's pretty much the same.
I had one question, or I didn't understand earlier, it was on there. When some items you can't put a sticker on, like that mirror, let's say.
I'll put it behind it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, usually if we can't put I won't put a sticker on that mirror, because all you're going to do is piss off the buyer. When you've got a sticky sticker stuck to that thing, and they have to spend 30 minutes trying to get it off, and it's just irritating. And I've been one of those guys that goes like, man, I wish they hadn't put that sticker on there. And then they'll screw up the frame. You don't want a gold leaf frame that has a sticker on it, and when you try to get it off, it damages it. So put it on the back.
and to go with exactly what you're just saying, same thing with farm equipment. I've seen these auction companies on the side of the beautiful, $100,000 tractor, and they put a big old sticker on there. And then you go and it will pull the paint off or something.
Yeah, true. That's right.
Don't
Okay,
put that
take a
sticker
look.
on the tractor.
Hey guys, let me roll through this.
Yes.
Antique knowledge, you have to have it. If you don't know anything about antiques, you're going to have to learn how to do antiques and collectibles. Furniture styles, Queen Anne, Mission Oak, Victorian, Duncan Five, everything from Louis XIV, all these different styles. Types of wood, you need to know the difference between mahogany, walnut, cherry, oak, rosewood. Glassware, you need to know the difference between cut glass, pressed glass, Waterford, Steuben, Lalique, crystal. Educate yourself. You can go down to the tollway here in Dallas, get off at Forest Lane. There is the Forest Lane Antique Mall. You want an education in antiques and art and mostly this kind of stuff? Go down there and spend 4 hours and pay attention, take some pictures, take some notes, and you'll learn a lot about the things that you're potentially going to sell. And that mall is right in the heart of North Dallas, so it gets a lot of the good stuff. Royal Worcester, Limoges, Noritake, Spode, and Masons, Roseville, McCoy, Hull, Pottery, Van Briggle, the Rookwood. You need to know these brands. These all mean something, and you need to learn the markings underneath, so when you flip it over, you automatically know. You go like, ooh, that's good.
Ooh,
That was kind of what my mother's thing was.
ooh.
My mother was all into this kind of stuff. And rugs. I'm very familiar with expensive rugs. $10,000, $20,000 rugs. Doesn't look like a $20,000 rug, but it is.
That's
You
great.
start looking at some of these homes in Mississippi, on the Mississippi, and in the antebellum homes, start looking at the things in those places, you're gonna learn a lot about that type of antique. They're museum quality. That's the thing. They're museum quality, and they're handmade. They're not machine made. And then different weights of silver, you need to know that. What can you do with ivory? Nothing. We used to sell ivory. We used to sell a lot of figures, figurines, pieces of ivory. We used to have lots of it. Sold tons of it in the 70s and 80s. But in the last 20, 30 years, we can't do it. Government says we can't. So we don't. It's because of all the endangered species.
So if you have ivory, what should you do with it? You can't do anything with it?
No. You can't sell it. You can't put it on the open market. Let me tell you something. We had an auction school one time here in this area. We had some ivory in the auction. This has been 20 years ago. When the person bought the figurines and flew them back to like Michigan or somewhere. When they got to wherever they went, guess what? Wasn't in the suitcases. The government had already removed, and they were just lucky they didn't go to jail. There are certain types of tortoise shells, certain types of these things that you simply cannot I mean, we're talking federal time. Do you want to go to prison over a tortoise shell watch band? I don't think so. So you really have to do your homework. Don't be stupid. Clocks. It's very hard to find really good antique clocks today because most of that stuff has been bought up and it's in private collections, and you rarely see the good stuff on the open market unless they're selling a collection. My mother was one of those people that bought clocks, German clocks, all kinds of 8-day clocks, and I mean, she was really into it. She was so good at it, she had her own bench where she could recalibrate antique clocks. She knew how to take a clock apart and rebuild it, and amazing. But we're talking like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 clocks. You can't find those anymore. They're not available. And then be careful about your jewelry. And the biggest problem with jewelry is there's so much fake jewelry. So you have to have the equipment to analyze the stones and make sure that the gold is real. And and that's the role of a jeweler. But a jeweler can teach you the basics of what you need to do, and so you won't get burned all the time. I've been burned on jewelry 30 years ago. Insurance, taxes, etc. You're going to have, if you have an auction house, liability insurance, contents coverage, or warehouse insurance. You're going to have to collect sales tax. You're going to have employee taxes because you're going to have employees. Utilities, you're going to have utilities. You're going to have bidder cards, lot numbers, all the things that go with running an auction. You're going to have a computer system. You're going to have printers. I would say if you had the shell, if you had the building, and I didn't have to give you the information on what the building would cost, but just to start an auction company with no inventory, it's still going to cost you probably 15, 20 grand to have the basics.
Yep.
And then, are you going to buy containers of antiques from Europe? Are you going to buy containers of antiques from Portugal? Where are you going to get your antiques? Are you going to get your stuff? You can buy containers of antiques from France, Germany. You can get them. Now, remember this. You're never going to get the best antiques from those countries. Germany's already shut the borders down. They're not shipping any of pre-certain years, okay? 40 years ago, we got unbelievable stuff. Switzerland, Sweden. I was involved in selling that stuff, so I know what we used to sell. You don't see that anymore. You might see it at Christie's, you might see it at Sotheby's, you might see it at Butterfield in New York and California and Chicago, but you're not going to just see it on the streets here, okay? Artwork, I'm not going to teach a class on art. I'm simply going to tell you that artwork is very subjective. What's hot now won't be hot in 5 years. It's all about the artist, and the masters like Rembrandt and those, of course, they're hanging. A lot of that stuff is hanging in D.C. and in New York and in the galleries. you want to go check out some great artwork, go to Fort Worth. They've got some great museums over there, Western and modern. You got the Dallas Museum of Art here as well. There are a few really good art auctions here in the state of Texas. They happen about once or twice a year. Doak Lambert probably is one of the best at Western art. He works down in Santa Fe and places like that. He's done it many years over time, and you learn that artwork, but just understand that's an entire industry. The art business is an industry, and you really have to learn it in order to be involved in it. Okay. Lori, you ready for those pictures real quick? I'm going to show you some pictures of a gallery, and that'll take about 10 minutes and we're done.
Have you ever heard of the San Filippo House?
The San Felipe what?
San Filippo House in Chicago?
I have not.
She's got one of the largest collections of anything you can think of.
Really?
Yeah. And he's the guy that owns Fisher Peanuts.
Oh,
It should
And,
go.
that's cool.
yeah.
Okay, ready? I'm going to roll through this. All right. What do we have a problem with in the United States right now?
Shipping.
Our president.
We have a supply chain problem, right? Well, these are containers. These are steel containers, steel vaults. I have 2 of them on my farm. I just bought this last year, and I just put another one on the ranch out here in McKinney. They're great containers to store things in. If you're going to do it, though, I suggest that you have it climate controlled. And the one I just got, it has lights, it's insulated, it has heat and air. I mean, I'm trying to take care of things that are valuable, right? And so this stuff comes over from Europe, and those boxes are burning up or freezing to death. Okay? They've been on the water. What happens on water?
Rust.
A lot of movement.
A lot of movement, things get knocked around a lot, but also there's a lot of condensation, isn't there? There's a lot of water in the ocean and
When
salt.
those containers get hot, they condensate.
Well, let's watch here. So, here's a yard. We're getting ready to head to the United States. I have a feeling. Okay? Now, these are being, as you can see, now this is an old picture. This is probably 30, 40 years old. But nothing's really changed except the equipment to load the ships.
Now, is that Mike on the left with hair?
No, I'm wearing the hat.
Oh, you're wearing a hat. Oh, okay.
So we're stacking containers, right? And we're getting ready to ship out. And this has been many years ago, but here again, the ocean is full of these in the Pacific right now, trying to get them unloaded. And let me tell you something, this would be a real bitch right now. If you're in the auction business and you've got a sale coming up and you have bought 4 of those and they're sitting out in the ocean and they're not getting delivered, guess what? You're not making any money. You've got money tied up, the ships are off the dock.
But not only that, but there's a good chance that the auction company is gonna call you and tell you that the price of that just increased because he set out on the ocean.
Everything's gone up.
No.
I used to buy a lot of these, and I'd have a customs broker. You're going to have to get a customs broker to handle this, and they're going to handle getting it over here. You're going to have to pay the broker. Then they're going to get it over here, and guess what? Customs can decide, once this gets on the dock, guess what? We need to inspect it. We're not going to just let them hook onto it and take it to the intermodal down here in South Dallas. They may want to unload it and check it for contraband or whatever. They're going to dump it out. They're going to charge us for it. I love that part too. Not only do we don't like the delay, we're going to get to pay for the privilege. Then they're going to put it back in there about, I guess the best way to put it is half-ass. And then we're finally going to get it, right? All right, let's look. Oh, did you see that? That's our trip. We're here. So that's going to be either in Houston, could be Miami, could be Los Angeles. In my particular case, all of my stuff came into Houston. And then they would take it off the ships, they'd set it on a set of dollies and drive it up here, okay?
Wow.
There's some hard-working people. There we go. Now, this box showed up right down here in Farmers Branch, about 10 miles south of here. He is reaching down. It's going to have a metal tag that has a serial number on it. If that tag is cut, or if it has been cut and put back, we don't accept the load. If the tag is in place, that means we're okay. But if it's been cut, that means somebody's been in it, and they're not supposed to be. So when it leaves the dock to here, we should be good.
So they re-tag it if they inspect it?
It'll be tagged when it leaves Houston or Galveston. All right, you see that dock on the left? That little drop-down dock? So that tells you that this building was not dock high. So Joe had to buy that, which cost him about $10,000 because he was in a street level building. He was not dock high. So this is what we had to deal with. Okay, you know what these guys are saying?
Shit.
Correct. In fact, that's a quote. So this is how I got in the auction business. In Houston, when I was in high school, I was doing what those guys are doing about 4 years earlier. So in the 70s, I'm unloading furniture. That was my first opportunity to make a living, not really make a living, but work and get a paycheck for $2 an hour. Okay?
Oh,
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's why they said what they said. So when they load these out, they are packed as tight as you possibly can get. They're trying to get every dime of product in that unit. The other thing is, if let's say you have a set of chest of drawers in there, every drawer is full of glasses or dresser sets or anything. But I mean, they literally use every space possible.
no.
So usually takes it's usually a 4-guy job to unload one of these containers. If you have a real good team, you can unload that container in about an hour to an hour and a half. But I mean, you got to have somebody really good. I mean, that's what it would take me to do it. I've seen guys take 3.5 hours to do it.
Wow.
But that's why in the course of about 2 months, I went from being a guy unloading those to setting up auctions. Because you're kind of showing the guy that owns the company who works hardest and who makes things happen. And that's kind of what happened to me. So they're rolling this stuff out. They've got dollies and they'll carry some of it. And then we just keep going. This is back in the age when pine furniture was real popular in the late 70s, early 80s. You see a trash container right here. These things are full of cardboard pieces, mostly scrap cardboard. They'll have mirrors like that that'll be wrapped in cardboard, and then as it comes off, we put the cardboard in there, and then we sell the cardboard to whoever buys cardboard. And then you see they're bringing wardrobes. How many of you are familiar with what a wardrobe is? You know, basically a wardrobe is a closet, and they used to send us, I had one load one time with 12 wardrobes. You don't need 12 wardrobes. But wardrobes, this was from England. In England, most of your hotels don't have closets. They have wardrobes. And so we sold tons of those. The other funny thing is, they were selling us loads of stuff and calling it antique. This is not an antique. But the people here didn't know that. The people in the United States thought this was antique because it looked like an antique. You know what it is? It's used 1950s and 1960s hotel furniture. That's all it is. And this stuff smells like coal. You know why? Because they burn coal in England. So, sometimes it would have silt or dust, coal dust on. But see, the people here didn't even notice it. It was just like, oh, I just love this antique. And we're like, oh yeah, it's nice. This is a great coal-covered piece. All right, see the guy on the right with the fancy pants? I used to have those pants. Yeah, those came from the Gap. Okay. Now, what was really unusual about this picture is I was really surprised it was cold. Because, you know, we don't get cold down here very often, but evidently this was probably in January or February. All right, and here they are. They're rolling it. You see the dollies at the bottom? They've got two-wheel dollies, those
Yeah.
those Magnolite dollies, and they're expensive.
They look like they're a little small for that big piece of furniture.
Well, he had a bunch of different ones. But the thing is, what I'm saying is he used quality. He could have used hard tires, but he didn't. Those were pneumatic air-up tires. Why? Because you're moving furniture with glass and mirrors, and it's a lot better on it to roll it on something that's pneumatic than it is a hard rubber tire. Okay, so we're unloaded in the building. This is kind of like what you see, a lot of it was raw. It was unfinished furniture. It didn't have a finish on it. Didn't have any colors or anything. It was just what it is. What you see is what it was. We had evidently 12 different shippers. And the 12 shippers, every tag is a different shipper and
they didn't
a different
fill it
load.
out.
These were all from different parts of the country or a different consigner. He got consignments in the 70s and 80s. But in the 80s, too many auctioneers did not pay the bill, and they went to cash only, where you had to pay for it. So I'd have to wire money to England in order to get that load. But back in the 70s, there was actually a handshake agreement, and they would send it, and you would sell it, and you'd mail them a check. Well,
Wow.
They screwed that up for us. But you see,
Did they not fill out the information on the tags though?
well, this is just a sample.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So like, here's the shipment number, and see, everything on the shipment had a lot number. So let's just say you had, let's say there was a furniture set. So you had like a bed, and you had 2 nightstands, and you had a dresser, and you had a chifforobe or a chest of drawers. So it could be lot number 6, could be that bedroom set, and it would say something to the fact of how many pieces there are, okay? But then when we sold it, it would have the buyer number here, okay? But you always had a number, so like if there were 7 pieces to a set, it would say 7, meaning there are 7 pieces of lot number 1, okay? All right, we used to have a lot of walnut and a lot of dark woods. As you can say, these were big, weren't they? No demand for this today.
Nope.
In 1975 through about 1989, we sold a lot of that stuff. You don't even see that, do you? Where did it go?
I don't,
Where did they put it? I don't know where it is. It's heavy.
yeah.
Takes 4 guys or 6 guys to move it, but we made a lot of money doing that. We did about 18 million in a short amount of time.
A lot of your older houses, they taxed you by how many, like the house I live in is 100 years old.
Yeah.
They taxed you by how many doors you had in your house. That's why the old cowboys fought their wives over bringing the toilet inside the house, is because they were gonna get taxed for it. So that's where wardrobes and ship robes and all that stuff went, because they didn't have any closets. I don't have
Sure.
closets.
Well, and here's the other thing. We don't, listen, you come over here where I live, they're building 2,500 homes within a half a mile of where I am. 2,500 houses.
God.
Yeah,
How big are those houses?
3,200 square feet, maybe.
Well, there's some areas of that are, but here's the bottom line. Those houses can't handle those ceilings. They can't even handle that stuff.
I like those chairs though.
Now, see at the top, you see we hung some flags down. But why did we do that? We wanted to give it an international feel.
Oh, little extra touch.
As you can see, this was set up for an auction. They had everything lined up, had a lot of marble stuff, a lot of gold gilt and stuff like
It's
that.
really pretty.
This stuff sold good.
It's pretty.
And it was North Dallas, so it always had a good crowd.
That's a pretty piece.
All right, just another picture. Throw some musical instruments.
Want a cello?
Yeah, do the cello. Got a little blue willow china in the background. All right, and then it says to be sold Monday. So when I started working there, they only had a sale 1 day a week, okay, which was like a Friday. And then they decided, you know what, we're going to add another day, which was good for me. I am 20 years old, 21 years old, and I went from making $5 an hour at the radio station to making $100 a night.
Oh,
3 hours work.
yeah.
in 1980. There's a lot of money in 1980, $100. So then I'd work Monday night and Friday night, so now I'm making $200 a week. I'm making $800 a month for 12 hours work. Is that a good gig?
Good
That's a hell of a
gig.
lot. Shoot. I'm
It's
sitting
gonna
there
happen
going,
in like 20
hey,
years from
Jed's a
now.
millionaire.
How are people gonna be able to afford it?
All right, I want you to look at something real quick. Right here, these are chairs, kind of like what you're sitting in. Right here is a folding table. This is the top of a folding table, which would be like this, right? These are the tables I was talking about that were made out of pressed wood. He had a gallery like this, and he would take these pieces of furniture and set them on top of those tables,
On top?
which allowed you, the crowd, to sit, and you would see the higher dollar furniture around the room. So he had basically a way
Wow.
to display it, and then he would put a row of furniture in front of it. Would you do that today?
No.
Hell
That's
no.
liability.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if one of those tables collapsed?
Oh my
Now listen,
God.
I was there for,
Break
we were
somebody's
there
neck.
for 15 years. We never had anything fall, but what if it had? Because you're getting ready to see something. All right, that's a Model A truck that worked. That was one of the signs. He had two signs for his company. One was on one side, one was on the other. One of those is at my residence
That's
in
cool.
McKinney. He gave me one of those when he sold out. That is the backdrop. You can see the front of the truck.
Wow.
And then he had a redwood backdrop that had built-in antique gasoline visible pumps as an accent piece.
That's cool.
They weren't for sale. And then you see in the top left-hand side, there's a gavel. That's in my office.
That's
at-
cool.
At the ranch. And he gave that to me when he shut down. That was a gift, which I really love that piece, by the way.
That's cool.
Kind of reminds me of 35, 40 years ago. That's Joe. He passed away about 2 years ago, maybe 3 now. He,
R.I.P. Joe Small.
in North Dallas, it was hard, sometimes if you had concrete, you couldn't like
Put your
put your
sign.
sign in the ground, so he had these welded bases created where you could just set them right in the rack. Pretty good idea.
Joe Small, smart
Joe
guy.
Small.
Smart guy. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, another great
It
idea.
was a fancy
He
man.
had a fancy van, he parked it at the end of the street, and he had these magnetic letters made, put it on the side of his van, and people knew where, and it had an arrow, it would direct you to his place.
I wonder where you got
I
your
wonder where I
trailer
got
right
that
idea.
That's what he got.
Hey.
Good idea.
Ah.
Man,
Awesome.
Don't mess with Joe Small.
Scooby-Doo
man
van.
is awesome.
Yep, he was always doing something.
Oh, what a,
I've got the bat phone back there,
yep.
you see that, the yellow
Yeah.
phone? And here, what's interesting is these pictures were taken probably around 1980, but he was taking MasterCard and Visa in 1980. There weren't any other auction
Pretty
companies in
legit.
Dallas, Texas taking Visa or MasterCard. He was ahead of his time. He also did something else, no smoking. He was the
Yeah.
first one in Dallas or in Houston to say, no smoking in my gallery. And he didn't care whether they came or not. That's just the way it was. He got his start with Lincoln Properties and was a big leaser with Lincoln Properties. He also worked for a little while as a mortician, and he also was in the maritime area, so he was in the Coast Guard. Interesting guy. A little weird, but I liked him. So there's your tables, your folding tables with the
Oh, my God.
better furniture up high, and then that's the gallery, and this is what it looked
Wow.
like.
It's kind of cool though.
So cool.
Back there.
Well, it wasn't just cool, it was the place to be.
Yeah.
When I first took my first job there as a ringman, I would be on the left-hand side, and there was a guy that sat right on the front row, and he was Secret Service for LBJ. And he had retired from working for LBJ, and he would tell me stories all the time about working for Lyndon Johnson. And great guy. And you know, you see these looks of what a Secret Service guy ought to look like, you know, like in a black suit, perfect hair, and with the radio in his ear. That's just what he looked like, even as a retired guy.
Still had the grass on his shoes from the snow.
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Boots.
Okay. So all of these guys
look at
wore,
those guys,
wore
outfits.
leather, what do you call it?
Aprons.
Aprons.
Apron.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Lyndon Lincoln on the right.
Yeah, right.
So that's back when we used to get, and these are cheap clocks compared to what we were used to selling. Now there's your clock.
Wow, look how cool.
This is how it was every Monday, every Friday night. It was standing room only. You had to get there early or you didn't get a chair. And, but we packed them in. And it would start around, I think around 6 or 6:30, and we'd go till about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And it was pretty cool. The auctioneer would stand on the back of the Model A, and we had a stand like this with our notes, and we'd call the auction from right there. That's Miles Autry. And Miles passed 10 years ago, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. He died at 56, 57 years of age. He had cancer. They diagnosed him on Thursday, told him to get his act together on Friday, and he died on Monday.
No.
I was there.
Was he a smoker?
Mr. Swenson flew in from Austin so we could be with him, and he was gone within an hour after we got there. Yeah, he was a smoker. He was a chain smoker, and he liked beer and smoke.
You heard that, Preston?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it sure did. And I bet he enjoyed every cigarette till his last.
Yeah, but I bet he missed the last 20
Started
years.
smoking Earlier, yeah.
Okay, take a look. I want you to look at these guys. See the guys on the left? You got a guy with his arms down, you got a guy with his arms crossed, and you got a guy looking at his watch. And Joe used to say, this is why he sold the gallery. Those three guys. He saw that picture and he said, you know what? I'm getting out of business. Yeah, because you had two guys doing all the work and three guys trying to figure out how the hell they're going to get out of the building. He used to use a lot of different rollers. He believed in working smarter, not harder. He had the best dollies, furniture dollies, piano dollies, whatever you needed to move furniture, he had it. And he didn't mind spending the money on things that made it easier for his helpers. And there's Joe. He loved his ramp to the day he died. So I'm telling you, when he bought that ramp, that was a big deal to him. And I ended up having to buy one just like it, because I had a building just like it. I ended up having to buy a ramp just like it. And that's it, guys.
Are you in that picture?
I may be. I tell you what, I haven't looked that close at that picture. There's a high probability that I'm there somewhere. I'll be on the left. Okay, Miss Lori, it's right, just a hair after 8 o'clock, so I think that's it. All right.
You are free to move about.
We'll see you in the morning, and let me tell you, tomorrow is going to go by fast.
We have a couple classes.
Have a couple of classes I got to knock out.
Again, and then
And then we